So you're scrolling through Instagram and you come across a video. It shows a guy who's about to get on a private jet to go to who knows where, probably someplace tropical, and all of a sudden clips start popping up of him driving his McLaren, of him opening his laptop and seeing a graph of sales going through the roof. He's in Dubai, he's in Bali, he's surrounded by people, he's enjoying his life, he's flying on jets, buying cars, buying whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. All of a sudden you are flooded with motivation. You start planning out your dream life. You start thinking about the idea of never having to worry about finances ever again. You put your phone down and you go tell everyone you know. And when you're done doing that and it's finally time to sit down and put in the work, it all hits you. Suddenly you're overwhelmed. You don't know what type of business you want to start. You don't know if you want to sell products or services. You don't know if you want to sell to other businesses or consumers. You don't know your branding strategy, your marketing strategy, how you're going to do any of this. And you start getting thoughts of, well, what if I fail? What are people going to think of me if I spend all this time and all this money and get nowhere and fail? They're going to think I'm delusional, crazy. And well, is it even worth it? You're left retreating back into yourself, probably back into your phone, seeking distraction from what you just did, from the destruction you just caused within yourself, within your mind, within your heart, and you're paralyzed with inaction. If this sounds familiar and you're someone who is not ready to give up on themselves, to give up on their dreams and the type of future that they want to live, this video is for you. This is the antidote to inaction. A friend and I recently had a conversation discussing this idea of someone taking their dream, something that comes from a deep desire within them, and somehow convincing themselves out of pursuing it, convincing themselves that they don't really need it, that they don't even really want it in the first place. And to us, this is so sad. It's depressing because how does it make sense to take something that excites you, that gives you hope, and habitually, almost voluntarily, fracture it into a million different pieces so that you don't have to do anything about it, and then retreat back into distractions to almost numb the pain of you destroying your future. Now, okay, that's a little deep, but bear with me here. We're discussing this because we see this everywhere with so many people, especially our age, high school and college, that they have this hope and something within them breaks it down and destroys it. And my friend asked, what do you think it is that's inside them that causes them to do this? That's such a hard question to answer, but I honestly think at number one, it is fear. Have you ever wondered what happens between childhood and adulthood that flips a switch within us from being excited and taking risks and pursuing things, whatever it is we want to pursue, regardless of what people think, regardless of how hard it is, to work at something and feel passionate and to pursue forging our own path, to the complete opposite, to settling for a life of mediocrity? What happens between these 2 points that causes such a change? And I was thinking deeply about this, and I kept going back to the idea of school. Think about this. School revolves around the idea of getting good grades. From the earliest age, it is ingrained in us that we get good grades to go to a good college, to get a good degree, to get a good job so that we can afford everything that we need to afford in life. We are taught that at a foundation of a successful life are good grades. And what are these grades based off of? They're mostly based off of tests and quizzes, something that we have one try on, only one, unless the teacher's nice, but mostly only one try. And that if we fail, our grades plummet, basically destroying any hope and future of success. Now think about what this does, especially to a young mind. This trains people to heavily fear failure. This trains them to believe that they only have one try and one try only at everything to succeed. And if they fail, their life is over. Now let's think about another part of school. How often is it that we are allowed to do our own thing, to go on our own path, to discover new ways of doing things, to have autonomy over our schedule, over what we say, or what we do, when we go to the bathroom? Never. We don't. The whole system is you raise your hand, your superior gives you permission to talk and do, and you are only allowed to do what they say. You are only allowed to know and learn what they say. We are never taught to learn on our own. And honestly, they make learning so incredibly boring that no one wants to do it outside of school anyways. Now think about what this does. This destroys any passion, any curiosity to discover, to learn new things, to try out new paths, and to really do your own thing, because your own thing is inadequate and it's wrong. So what are you left with? You're left with all these kids, all these people who are afraid to fail, who think their grades determine their success in life, who are afraid of doing their own thing at their own time, who are afraid of pursuing new ideas and discovering new things and deviating from whatever their teacher tells them to do or teaches. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, how at all does this relate to inaction? Think about this. You take all of these aspects, these habits, these fears, and these things that we are trained to think and do, and we put it back into the scenario of now you're motivated, you see this guy who's making it, you want to do this, you have this deep desire of freedom to provide for your family, to be great, to have status, and all these things in life. And you're at the moment where you sit down and you realize that you have to do things that you were never taught. You actually have to go against your training of staying on one path and one path that they tell you to stay on. You're faced with the idea of working with no results, of doing things that are risky and uncomfortable, both that which we're taught not to do. The fear of failure sets in. You think about how most businesses fail, how most people fail at obtaining this type of life and achieving the things that you in the moment are feeling motivated to achieve. And you don't even know where to start. You don't even know how to learn how to do this thing. You're suddenly overwhelmed with fear and discomfort, and you can't handle it. You retreat back into the distraction of social media, of alcohol and drugs or sex or whatever. You retreat back within yourself so that you don't even have to think about doing this, because that's how hard it is. And this leads you to being paralyzed, unable to take action, unable to do anything. This almost seems intentional, because you always default back to the life that you were trained to believe was right and that you were trained to live. How do you get out of this? How do you get out of this habit of destroying all your passion, all your dreams? What is the solution? All right. And honestly, I think the solution is pretty simple, is to know exactly why you're doing this, which is basically what I just explained. To know what it is, and that it's this fear, and to really self-reflect and to dissect this fear into why you're having it and whether or not it's actually rational. For example, if it's fear of failure and a fear of what other people think of you, one, failure is how you learn. Nobody gets anywhere great without failing. Failing is your number one tool and asset to get to where you want to be. They don't teach you that. Two, the fear of what other people think of you just doesn't matter. That's easy. You can pretty easily realize that that's not a rational fear, that neither one of these are rational fears. I've only come to realize these things through immense self-reflection and self-awareness, because again, no one teaches you to think this way. No one teaches you anything about this. It just happens, and you're confused, and you have this natural habit of distracting yourself so you don't have to think about it, so you never do, so you never confront it, and you never understand it, so you just keep it living the same life you have. The first step to avoiding this is knowing why you're feeling this way, knowing what it is, what fear it is. So now you're in this place where it's like you're feeling this way, but it doesn't matter, okay? Now all you have to do is just act. Be uncomfortable, take risks, do the things that are uncertain, that you have to do repetitively day after day, hours and hours, work after work with no results, and you will get there. But I think the reason why most people fail and end up where they started was because they didn't understand this fear and why they thought this way and what to do about it. They just let it happen, let it convince themselves to give up on what they're pursuing, and they just moved on with their lives. That's just what I believe that is leading so many people to the state of passivity and inaction, and what I think the antidote is. And to me, it makes a ton of sense. And honestly, I think it's intentional. But again, that can be another video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I know this was a pretty deep one, but I'd love to know your opinion on this topic and what leads people, to being this way and to thinking this way. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.